But what I heard through my career, right, as a consultant, as an advisor, an executive coach, was all the things that people couldn't do. Yeah, but I can't do this because. Okay. Well, I mean, we all have that. But when you hear it and you're like, hold on, you can't do this because you can't make money doing it? I was like, so nobody makes money doing it, or you can't make money doing it? They're like, well, it's impossible to do that. I was like, impossible, like, because it's never been done before? Impossible, right? And the thing is that...
Hello. Welcome to another Knowledge Bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Marc Wolfe.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Please help me welcome Marcus with Unlocking Your Leadership Potential and Beat Self-Doubt.
Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
Actually, a guy who moved from the north to the south. So just think about that. I lived in New Jersey most of my life. And then my wife said, we need to leave New Jersey. And we moved down south, and now I live outside of Nashville. And one of the interesting things about growing up is that when you are from somewhere, there's a lot of baggage sometimes when you have places that you've been from and you go to. And I grew up in an environment where, I had a job when I was 14 years old. I was working at an IHOP, right? International House of Pancakes, as a dishwasher because I wanted my first car. And I had working papers and get paid like $2.75 an hour. And I mean, I'm not 100 years old. This is not that long ago that people got paid very little minimum wage, right? And I did things because I knew that I wanted to change the way that I lived. Because I got kicked out of school at 9 years old, public school in New Jersey. Wow. I got kicked out because I was helping other kids. They would come over when I got my work done and not ask me for an answer, but ask me to help them. The teacher said I was disruptive, and she kicked me out of class. She kicked me out of class so much that Mr. Santini, the principal, literally brought my parents in that were divorced and said, your son can't go to school anymore here.
Wow.
I got kicked out at 9 years old for helping other people. And guess what I do every day now? Help other people.
Right?
So they kind of had it wrong, right? The school had it wrong. And the thing is that I looked and learned and said, you know what? I'm not going to let somebody tell me what I need to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to start my own business. So I started a freelance photography business at 16 years old. And then I wound up taking pictures of U.S. presidents, supermodel Cindy Crawford.
Oh, wow.
I had an internship and took pictures on the field in the New York Giants and New York Jets. And I started taking pictures and literally grew my business where I was taking pictures of all different events and dignitaries and authors and things. And I was under 20 years old.
Jeez,
and I did it because cool. I was like, well, why not? Right? Like somebody else is going to do it. And this back when there was film, right? You didn't even know what pictures you took in the beginning. So you went and got them developed. Wasn't digital. You didn't know in real time how it was going to go, right?
Yeah.
So it was interesting that that's part of what I did is that I started my own business. And because I liked photography, I started playing with the Macintosh. And I started this back when there was AOL and there was dial-up and people, only floppy disks. Come on, Cedric, you know about that, right? So I started playing with Macintoshes, and then I became an early Apple dealer. And I started fixing computers inside some of the largest companies in the country because back in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, people would look at Macintosh and say, oh, we don't care about them. Could you imagine there was a time when people didn't care about Macintoshes?
You can't even fathom that, right? But I do remember.
Yeah, it was a great time because there was people that, and think about it, it's underserved, right? So here I was getting kicked out of school. Here I am working with underserved community of Macintosh users. Now, it doesn't seem like that, but when you're only a few machines inside a large company, you don't get the attention you deserve, right? So fast forward that career, I doing work for Becton Dickinson and Tiffany's and CNBC and did all this work because nobody wanted to take care of the Macintoshes, and I did.
Wow.
And then I went and I became an executive coach. Why? Because when I was talking to those people, Cedric, I would ask them, because back then it took a little while to work on a computer, right? It wasn't just magically fixed.
All right.
And I would talk to people and I'd ask them about themselves, and I'd be like, what do you wish you were doing? And they were like, you mean, what do I do? I said, no, no, I know what you do. What do you wish you were doing?
Wow.
And 9 out of 10 of them, it wasn't what they were doing.
Uh,
It was always something different.
yeah.
And I said, wow, hold on. Why do you wish that you were doing something different? They're like, well, I can't because all these excuses.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, so you're stuck.
Yeah. Huh.
And that, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff there when I was just a kid and growing up and starting a business and trying to understand people and understanding why they felt stuck. And then I went and became an executive coach because I realized that the way to solve a lot of problems that people have, or at least work through it, is asking really good questions.
You know, you said something that was really interesting. I mean, you go back to even like you said, the issues you had in school, self-doubt, behavior that we have. You got kicked out of school for being you. I want to kind of talk about that and even your studies and the psychological aspect of that, because as an individual right now that think who they are, it's so amazing to me when I hear individuals say, oh man, this is just who I am. Somebody's shy. Oh, this is just who I am. I'm like, no, that's who you became because of something. I don't know what it is. I want you to kind of share that. And do you have any study material, something that you can give us from that? Maybe help an individual, a leader, someone that's listening, like, hey, this can change.
When you hear what people tell you, right? And again, I'm not a psychologist. I got a bachelor's degree in marketing, right? So I'm not even a technologist. I was a guy who learned, right? Because I grew up where you had to do and learn, and this was before the internet. So you actually had to watch other people. You had to read books. You had to do a lot of other things to figure stuff out. And, you know, one of the things I heard all the time was those limiting beliefs. It's like, I can't. I was like, really? And I'm professionally curious, right? So I'm always like, well, what does doing it look like? What's possible, right? And I'm not like a dreamer where I'm like, anything's possible. I'm like, no, let's keep it real. How are you going to make money? Who's going to get affected? What happens if you fail? Like, I want to keep it real. And there's a lot of times that people believe that's just the way I am, but that's a fixed mindset. There's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is, this is the way I am. Nothing's going to change. This is just it's the way I'm always going to be. And a growth mindset says, if I'm going to go do something and I'm going to lean into it and I fail, I learn and I adjust and I do it different. And every failure and pick up your phone. That was a failure, because remember the old phones and how limited they were? Well, the PDA, the personal digital assistant, right? The Palm Pilots, the Apple Newtons and all that stuff. Those were failures, right? That became successes that we now have the phones we have. So we build on failures. If you don't fail, you don't know how to grow.
Let's talk about that real quick, because I mean, in school, if you fail, it's a bad thing, right? And I know a lot of individuals.
Who says it's a bad thing, Cedric?
Well, you get
who
that
says
F.
it's a bad?
You get that big fat F.
Hey, I failed. According to school said I failed, but guess what? I was a failure in their eyes, but I wasn't a failure in my own eyes.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because that's someone been drinking the Kool-Aid for years. You have an amazing book right now. Yeah, but coordinating conjunction that basically you say whether you make a statement and then you have that but that changed everything that was said before it. I want you to kind of talk about that. What was the idea of coming out, you saying, you know what, this idea for this amazing book, and even the name, I mean, that's very powerful. Let's talk about it.
When I'm hanging out with people, and it's funny, if you listen to what people tell you, even when you walk up to people you don't know, they tell you a lot about themselves immediately, right? They tell you what they're going to talk about, right? If it's only going to be about the weather, or they're going to get deep real quick and start talking to you about what's going on in their life. And we meet all different kind of people. But what I heard through my career, right, as a consultant, as an advisor, an executive coach, was all the things that people couldn't do. Yeah, but I can't do this because. Okay. Well, I mean, we all have that. But when you hear it and you're like, hold on, you can't do this because you can't make money doing it. I was like, so nobody makes money doing it, or you can't make money doing it? They're like,
Oh
well, it's
man,
impossible to do that. I was like, impossible, like because it's never been done before, impossible, right? And
I
the thing
love it.
is that when you think about it, you listen and you hear people convincing themselves it can't be done. And
Mm,
here's the worst part, Cedric. We hang around other people and they throw their beliefs of limit on
mm,
you.
mm.
So here you are, and you're thinking, I want to leave New Jersey. And my friends are like, oh, you can't leave New Jersey. You talk with your hands. You talk too fast. You're Italian. You're get there. There's a whole different world down there. You're never going to make it. I was
Yeah.
thinking, so you're never going to leave. And guess what? They're still there.
Mm.
And I'm here and I'm doing better than I was there because people don't want you to leave because you know what it says about them? It says that something's wrong with them
Uh,
because you left, and it's really not. It's not
uh,
always about them.
uh,
Sometimes it's just about you moving on. So that's where
yes.
yeah buts came from. The yeah, but I'm not ready. The yeah, but somebody already did it. The yeah, but I don't have time. That's my favorite one.
Mm.
There's 1,440 minutes in a day.
Uh,
And guess what? That's the great equalizer. We all have exactly the same amount of time. And what
mm.
you and I do with our time is so much how you can leverage all the things you say you can't do.
Mm.
And we learned that during COVID. People said, I don't have time. Then all of a sudden, they had the most time they were ever going to have because everything from their commute to everything. And guess what? When they still didn't do things, I used to say, so I guess it wasn't time, it's
Uh,
desire,
oh. Woo.
right? It's about mindset.
Yes.
So when you hear yeah, buts, you're right. But kills everything after the but.
Mm.
And what I'm looking at is like, well, yeah, and then what?
Mm.
Right? So we remove the but completely and we go and put the and then what? What are you going to do? Because
Mm.
sometimes there's a but in your life and you're like, yeah, but not where I came from. Because I can't change where I came from. Right? I was from a broken home. I was the first one to go to college. My family, my mom, when my parents got divorced, we were on welfare and food stamps,
Mm.
right? People have no idea about that. Didn't talk about it until I put it in the book because in the only chapter I talk about myself is yeah, but not where I came from. That's not going to change. The whole
Mm.
thing is that so then what? What are you
Yeah.
going to do when things you can't change?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, you coach a lot of you do a lot of executive coaches across different industries. And some of those yeah buts when you're dealing with individuals with these limiting beliefs that you've witnessed, how do you help leaders recognize when they're falling into this type of trap?
When I watch the company culture start to degrade, when I watch that people aren't heard, when
Mm,
I watch psychological safety start to change, when
mm,
I watch everyone in the organization that is around that leader starting to use the same thing because that's what the leader does, and
mm.
that's what you try to change and work through
Wow.
because the leader leads and they're the example. And people, when they're transparent, they tell you, hey, listen, I don't have it all. I haven't figured it all out. Because if you act like a leader where you think you got it all down, and we
Mm,
see that with actors, we see that with people that have all this money, and we watch them fall and we go, oh, I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, really? You didn't see
yeah.
that coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't see that it was just a facade, right?
Yeah.
So there's 8.2 billion people in the world, Cedric. And guess what? Nothing's new, man. What I hear from leaders all the time is like, they have to start modeling what they want other people to be able to do, right?
Mm,
You got to be transparent enough. You have to have conversations with people. You got to listen to them deeper and find out what their real issue is. And guess what? It doesn't matter what generation they're from.
yeah.
You got to treat people so they can be heard. And
Mm,
if they have a yeah, but we got to work through how they can do it. You can't change anybody other than
yeah.
yourself. So
Yeah.
start with you, right?
Mm,
Where are the yeah, buts that you're saying? And
mm,
who's going to call you out? My spouse calls me out all the time. So there's
mm,
somebody in your life that you trust enough, and they're the person you don't want to hang around with all the time because they
mm.
tell you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need somebody, actually, you always need somebody who's going to give you tough love, right?
Yeah.
Because if you just got people that are cheering you on, they'll cheer
Mm.
you right off a cliff, man. And
Jeez. Yeah.
sometimes you need somebody who's going to say, you know, you've said that for 5 years, you're going to do that. Or you said you were going to, and now you got the yeah buts. And okay, well, when's the good time to do that? So that's the
Mm,
first thing is have to surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you to be better And how about if they're better too because you guys are better together? Even if you're doing
Yeah.
separate things,
Yeah.
even if they're not your spouse. We all have
Yeah.
friends that you challenge each other, maybe to try new food, again, starting there. Maybe it's just to go to a different place. Maybe it's just to
Yeah.
do something different. How about
Uh,
that? Right? And then
yeah.
you got people you work with, right? And we have this circle of friends. So sometimes people you just work with, then sometimes you gain friends and you build a relationship. But here's the thing. If you start to go and you hear about a yeah, but, right? Sometimes helping somebody with their own helps you with yours, right?
Mm.
So maybe you give to get. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe when you hear somebody else talk about their time limitations, right? And you go, okay, so you don't have time. So why don't we go and take a walk while we're having this chat so we can actually exercise when we're doing this? And that's why I start doing with my clients. They're like, I got to be in meetings all day. I was like, okay, let's go take a walk and we'll
Yeah.
talk during that time. They're like, that's brilliant. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that was easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
maybe just 1% different. Maybe just thinking about it a little different. Maybe just changing things up. Cedric, I noticed now that I'm in my 50s that I don't do the same thing I did in my 30s. So
Mm.
maybe different stages of your life, maybe different roles you play. Maybe when you become an empty nester, or if you have children and all of a sudden they're still littles and they become bigs.
Mm.
Maybe you just do things a little different just to go and test out what life is like. Like, I want to be married to one wife for the rest of my life, right? I picked one,
Yeah.
and every year she renews the contract, and we still have a deal, right? I'm not a
Right.
free agent, and she's still. And the thing is that I got to give her time as well as just work. So even if you're an entrepreneur and there's somebody in your life, how much time are you sharing to make sure that they're still going to be there? Because we get our heads down and we start working so much and we forget all the other people in our lives.
Mm. This is good. This is good. Wow, this is good. And you talked about that environment, and we talking about like just self beliefs and self doubts and all these different things. And I realize that too, like the environment, the people you're around, because even when you do, let's say you have that growth mindset and you start reading and you start learning, right? You start developing, you start growing. That individual, I mean, you have individuals in your circle that may not grow with you. They may be okay with where they are, fearful, and all these different things. And here you coming out. But one of the things I tend to see is that individual that's growing, tend to outgrow the crowd. And now every time they try to do something or share an idea with the person they were in the crowd with, the person in the crowd always trying to pull them back
Mm-hmm.
words.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them have the audacity to say things like, oh, you think you're better than everyone, and all
Mm-hmm.
of these things. I want you to kind of talk about that because there's individuals. I mean, we're talking leaders, we're talking students, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
co-workers, we're talking I mean, people in general, community leaders and people in the community that's attached to their own community and is affecting them, and they don't even know it. I want you
Mm-hmm.
to kind of help us
Mm-hmm.
through that. What tips would you give in that situation?
So we outgrow certain roles and certain people in different, I mean, levels of our life, and it's not that we're better than them, but
Mm.
if we live life for somebody else, how does that turn out? And let me give you an example in the professional environment. I hear more former lawyers and more former accountants than I hear former salespeople. And you know why? And remember, it's a lot more debt to become an accountant or become a lawyer. You don't usually hear former doctors like I gave up being a doctor. So why is it that people are former attorneys? Because
Wow.
the people I've spoken to is they were doing it for the wrong reason.
Mm.
They did it because that was their family history, or they did it because they wanted to impress somebody, or they did it because. So when you start living your life, and I think that's the biggest example, and you're going to hear it now, it's going to be hard not to see. Oh, I was an attorney, or I'm a recovering accountant. Okay, recovering from your
Mm.
career?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
right? So think about it. I don't have the same friends. All of my friends are not the same that I've had at every stage of my life. There's new friends that I've acquired over time for different roles and different reasons. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
hobby, but maybe it's also because some of the friends that I had when I was a kid are still stuck in the neighborhood that I grew up in and never wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to leave, that's a choice.
Yeah.
But if you're the one that wants to leave, sometimes you got to leave people behind, and you can still want to help them, but some people don't want help. So are you going to give your life to being stuck because somebody else is stuck? And that wasn't my mission. So I think when people think about what are you trying to accomplish, how much closer are you to it today? And here's a silly example. At the end of the day, people want to unwind, right? So they're going watch binge Netflix, right? And they're going to go, and at the end of the day, if you ask them, so did that help you unwind? And they're like, no. And I was like, so why'd you do it? They don't measure why they do things. They just do it out of habit.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that's so true. That's so true. Oh my goodness, we call one thing, we call it something, we call it a spade, but it end up something else. And we don't even go and check the results, the evidence of it. And is this what I really wanted? And just doing something, going through cycles, maybe because somebody else told you to do it.
Or maybe you did it because you just were doing it, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't measure, and I'm not an analyst, right? I'm not sitting here and saying you got to make a spreadsheet. What I'm just saying is if you say you're supposed to do something, and I'm like, I want to unwind, I've had a hard day.
Yeah.
And what happens is you don't feel any better, then stop doing that. And you're like, there's so many other things to do, right? So I think we never really take the time, and I talk about this a lot in the book because I talk about 15 yeah buts, but I have 25 different examples. I talk about how Andre Agassi literally hated tennis. One of the greatest tennis players hated tennis. This is from his autobiography because he felt compelled to do it because his dad was the overlord that made him do it. So he hated the sport that he did. We talk about Ruth Chris and why Ruth Fertel started Ruth Chris Steakhouse. She wasn't a restaurateur. She was trying to pay for her kids' school. And she started it to be able to do that. And, there's so many things in this book. And the cool part about yeah buts are if you overcome them, actually, you don't just help yourself, you actually help other people. And what I talk about in the book is that there's people you're robbing of your brilliance by not doing something that you really, really care about, but you've used yeah buts to stop you.
Jeez. Oh, that's a perspective. That's a perspective by itself. Not even leaving out of your household. I mean, your kids, your wife. I mean, people that are affected by the yeah, but I mean, it's really crazy, really crazy.
And so I want to stop that from happening. So that's why I've been using the hashtag no more yeah buts. And I've been trying to help people. So the book's only been out since January 2025. And I'm looking at this and I've already heard 6 people are writing books now because I wrote a book. Now, I didn't want to write a book. Writing a book is a lot harder than speaking because, Cedric, you and I have a conversation. I can change in real time. I can be able to do things. But when you write something, it's static, man. It's just there. So it's harder for me to write, but it's affecting people. And there's people that have gotten promotions 4 years earlier. They decided they were going to run a local office, and they were like, I wasn't really going to do it because I had to achieve all these additional milestones. And they did it, and they got it 4 years early. I've heard so many stories, and the book's been out just a few months, and people are reading it. And the cool part about it is you don't have to read every single chapter. What you do is read the chapters with the yeah buts that matter to you. So if it's yeah, but what's the plan? Just read that chapter because each chapter is a module. And then it's got butt busters at the end so you can actually work through it. That was my wife's idea. She's like, you need to put some lines and make it a workbook. And I was like, you're crazy. Nobody's going to do that. And then I had people show me how they filled out the whole book. And I was like, okay, there you go. She did it again.
Knowledge bomb. This is really great. This is really great. I mean, you're really, really, really helping us. I want you to kind of give us maybe some questions we need to think about, as far as these yeah buts and these limiting beliefs that we have.
We talked about the yeah but. It's like the yeah but, I don't have time. That's my favorite one because I think people don't measure time as the most limited resource. They measure money and they act like they have unlimited time and limited money, but it's actually the opposite way around. We don't know how long we're going to live. And that's not morbid, Let's say the average age is 79, right? The thing is that you could live to 100. But the thing is, if you don't start thinking about what you're doing with your time, you're not actually going to actually activate what you could be doing right now. So the question to ask is like, if I'm doing something, does it actually produce the results that I want? Why am I doing this? And you only have to answer this for yourself. You don't tell anybody else. Just ask yourself and think, if I don't change what I'm doing right now and nothing changes, what happens in 18 months from now? In a year and a half, what happens if nothing changes? If I don't change my job, I don't change my yeah buts, I don't change what I'm doing or who I'm doing it with, what changes? Right? I mean, this is a deep question that just because you avoid it doesn't mean it's not there, right? It'll just kick your butt and go, where did all my time go? How about if we do it in the front end and we start thinking about it now in our 20s that people hear? How about if in their 30s they can still do this, right? Then your 50s you won't regret stuff because you have taken care of in your 30s. It's not, I have a yeah, but I'm too old, or yeah, but I'm too young. There's people that have started businesses in their 50s and 60s that literally crushed it. And I got stories in there about that. I think once you really think about it, you're really just lying to yourself, man. But if somebody came up to you and said, hey, Cedric, you can't do it, you would probably be like, oh, I'll show him or I'll show her. Right? But when you say it to yourself, you're like, oh, I can't do that. I was like, so somebody lies to you, you call them out.
But you lie to yourself. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. This is crazy. Yes, we do it all the time. We will show someone else, but we won't even prove it to ourselves. That is, Mark, this is crazy. I'm glad we're talking about this because this is a perspective that we need to hear. I mean, we try to prove something to everybody else. But once we prove something to ourselves, this is you, prove something to you. You know what you want. And you know what? Let's do this. Oh, because I was about to say something because I'm thinking about myself. But that's individuals that don't even know what they want. Let's kind of slow pump the brakes there and kind of park there. For an individual to say maybe they don't know what they want, what can they do to start that process of knowing what you want?
Okay, I'll give you the cheat code right here. You start with your non-negotiables. Right? So what does non-negotiables mean? So when people are looking at a job or when they're looking to start a business or doing things, here's what I never want. Like, I don't ever want to travel, they might say. I want to do something in my backyard. I want it to be local. I care about my community. I don't want to travel. Good. That's a non-negotiable. So if somebody offered you all this money, you're still not going to travel. No, that's a non-negotiable. Start with what is non-negotiable. Right? Because then everything else is negotiable. There's only negotiables or non-negotiables. So I want to work with people that are executives. Okay. Well, if somebody gave you all this money or this, would you work with them? Well, maybe if they did this. Okay, that's negotiable. So let's just start with a really binary list of those two things, right? And then you look at that and you start thinking, okay, what else do I not want to do? I'm not really good at building stuff, right? So I'm probably not going to be in construction. Okay, that's good. But am I good at a hobby, like doing some other things, and could I make a job out of it? Okay. Well, actually, I do know about technology, and I probably could do something with that. Okay, so you start thinking about it, and you start narrowing it down. That means you've already started making a plan. So when people say, I don't have a plan, I was like, I bet you if I asked you 10 questions, you went to my website and downloaded a chapter on fear, which is free, I bet you'd have some answers already just by the free chapter and the free questions. Because guess what, Cedric? Nothing's new under the sun. It's just that I'm available. We're having this conversation, but I'm just saying it in a different way. But everything we're saying, it just needs to be heard, and that people need ears to hear, man. That's it.
Yeah. Marcus, this is great knowledge bomb. And you just said something. I mean, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, man, I just wrote this question down. I was like, man, I'm doing this myself because I think it's always room for fine tuning.
I'll give you another tip.
What else? I love it. Go ahead.
No, so we could do this all day long because again, this energizes me because I want people to hear this, right? I wrote this book and there's nothing really about me in it. It's about the reader, right? It's about stories of people that they've never heard and some they have. And what I want other people to think about is doing an MVP, a minimum viable product. So there's so many people. I mean, entrepreneurs are what make America amazing, is that people starting businesses from nail salons to going and being handymen to going and creating products. And I love that. Here's the thing. When you think about it, right, there's this whole thing about what do we do? Where do we start? What's going on? All you got to do is surround yourself with some other people because you don't do it alone anymore, right? That's not the thing. You don't have to do things by yourself. You can crowdsource, you can get other people, but you got to start with a version 1 because it's better than version none. Just start with it.
Ooh, knowledge. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. I love it.
I think the best thing that people can do is double down on what they're good at and be more authentic, right? And what that means is, if you're working a 9 to 5, do it with all you can and all you are while you're there. What does that mean? Because I work with people that are executives and I work with a lot of leaders, and guess what? They're on their way to somewhere else. Like they're not a CEO yet. So they're like an EVP and everything. And I was like, they're like, I know I'm on my way. They might be early in their career or they might have been there 10 years and they're not going to get that position. I was like, what are you learning here that you're not going to have time to learn later? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, this is a test bed for you to go and be able to check things out, be able to do things, be able to break things now. Because when you are that leader, you don't have chance back then. You're supposed to have learned it. So why don't you start schooling yourself where you're at? But Mark, I just have this menial job. I'm just a manager at a place. And I was like, yeah, but are you working with people? Are you helping them? Are you listening to them? Because if you're not doing it here, your next role where you're even bigger, you're not going to do it there. Learn the lessons now, man.
Yeah. Yes. Knowledge bomb. Man, this is good. I love it.
But the thing is, you don't have to believe it, but you don't have to believe oxygen's important either and try to live without it. Okay, right? So some things are just fundamental. And if you look at the fundamentals, you're going to realize these are things that have been overcome. It's not just me or you saying it. It's actually real life. And stop getting in our own way of our own success. Maybe that 1 or 2 people that actually believe in you, maybe that's all you need to be able to move a little bit further, faster.
Knowledge bomb. Marcus, is there any question you say, what, I wish Cedric would have said this, or anything you want to share on your heart before we log off on today? Go ahead. The floor is open to you.
I love the opportunity to have conversations, right? But I also love being in person. So what I think people don't recognize, and this is something that I've done recently, it's been massively successful. Take the meetings that you normally would have, right, at your organization. Take the meetings that you normally have that are sponsorship dinners. Bring in somebody that has energy and a perspective and changes everything up. And it doesn't have to be you. Start leveraging other people that see things differently. Build trust with them, invite them in, and watch your world change. So I go and created a book, and my book isn't what changes. It's conversations like this that we have in person that literally watches organizations go, that was good. Because I'm the kind of guy that follows up and goes, so what changed? Because conversations have to turn into outcomes because words aren't important. And, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And that's called wisdom. And wisdom is what changes the world, not knowledge. Because if knowledge, AI should be able to solve everything. It's when you apply the knowledge. So let's do it in real time with real people and make real change happen and then measure how it happened. And let's see if we can repeat it and make it really work again and again. I've seen it. I live this out.
Oh, this is great. Man, Marcus, this was great information, man. You really dropped a lot of knowledge on us. And I know individuals right now waiting for this question. If someone wants to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
Yeah, so I have a book called Yeah, But. That but is with one T. If you put in two T's, you're on your own. Okay, my butt only has one T. Okay. And then it's Marc, M-A-R-C, A, Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E. If you put in Marc Wolfe and Yeah, But, and Amazon, you're going to see the book come up, but it's everywhere. It's in Apple, it's in Barnes & Noble, it's available as Kindle, all the way across to Apple eBooks. The cool part about it is that it has a part you can work through, and you don't have to read all 202 pages. Just read the yeah buts that matter to you. And guess what? For free, you can go to marcawolfe.com/book and be able to get a free chapter and get on our email list. I have a podcast. I interview people from ex-CIA agents to Super Bowl champions to people get out of human trafficking. They all talk about what? Their yeah buts. So they've all read the book. People I've never met. I said, do you want to be on my podcast? They pick the yeah but chapters and they share yeah but stories and about how they overcame their own yeah but. So here's people you would know from the Indianapolis Colts that is Super Bowl champions, and you went and you can hear about Ben Utek's actual yeah buts. You can hear about somebody who's in charge of cyber for CIA about their yeah buts. You can hear about somebody who's in AI talking about the future and their yeah buts. That's a great place to start. So you can see that other people got the same problems, but they also overcame them.
Oh, wow. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you for having a show like this where we can help other people in real time.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.